Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to an unboxing for the original base game for Small World. What is Small World, you're asking? It's an area control game. That's the simplest way to put it. If you're familiar with the old school game Risk, it has similarities to that. In that, what you're going to do is you're going to pick a race and a class. So we have like giants, trolls, halflings, humans, orcs, stuff like that. Some of these might not all be in this set, some are in other sets as well. And then you'll have special identifiers or abilities, which make differences, like mounted, fortified, alchemist, swamp. So if like you have swamp, you might have a swamp troll, or a swamp orc, or a merchant human, or a merchant elf. And they're going to give you different abilities to play through the game. And they're going to do is you're going to move your pile of your characters and try and take over your tribes, I guess might be what they're called. Your different race characters, and you're going to try and take over I want to say expanding, but it's not, because it's Small World. There's not much room. But you're going to take over the regions on these boards. So here's like just a sample of the board. So you're going to have your characters in one area, and you're going to try and expand them from one to the other. And much kind of like the Risk version of it is that you have like, if you have 5 troops here, you have to decide how many you want to move into this area. Well, leave at least 1 here to keep this area conquered. So you have 1 now, you can move 4 over here, and then you can move 4 from there down into move 3 down in there. But then the more and more you do it, the more and more your characters will be spread out, and the easier they'll be able for other tribes and players to take over. And the whole end game is, so in the corner here of the board we'll have, depending on which one, we'll have a certain number of rounds. At the end of the round, at the end of the last round, depending on what size board and how many players you are, whoever has the most victory points wins. So at the end of every round, once you're done moving all your tribes around, trying to take over area, you score for every area you control. Some races have special abilities. They'll give you extra benefits for being in certain areas, as well as the attribute as well. So you might gain a bonus if you're on the hills or if you're on a cave. So it might determine on what you have, might depend on where you want to go. That's the very quick briefness of it. So like an example of 2 of the races and characters, or the classes and characters. So if we have hill halflings, so they're 2 separate little ones, you combine them so they're all mix and match. They're going to tell you what you're going to get and how many you're going to get of each. So you're going to combine the numbers. So we're going to have 10 halflings, hill halflings. And that's going to show, like, the hill has a special ability, you gain 1 extra coin every time for every hill you're conquered. And then the halflings are going to get 2 of these little hobbit holes that you can put in there, hobbit holes. Now, the thing is, the pictures on here don't really explain what they do very well. They do have, of course, a rule book that explains all of it, and then they have this big, giant guide sheet, which you can flip over, which will re-explain what they do. So if we look at halflings, it says what you're going to do with it, and I'll read over those later. But you have all these other different mix and match races that are going to do different stuff. The dwarves will give you extra mining. The trolls get extra defense because they actually put down troll caves. We have some other different classes here. We have Berserker, lets you roll extra dice for when you're doing certain things. Pillaging lets you take over those spots easier. So there's a bunch of different ones, and we'll look at all those. So then the other big thing is when you're playing, the other big extra feature of the game is at some point your current race is going to be extended too far, and you're only going to have maybe like 1 or 2 here, and it's not going to, and you're not going to be able to keep moving people because you only have so many tokens to play, what you do is then you put your race into decline, is you flip them upside down. They lose all their special abilities. You remove all but one from each area. Now you're still going to score points with each one of them, but then you draw a brand new character. And then, if the game is going on long enough, you may choose to take your second character, put them into decline, you get rid of your first one, so then your second group, your second character or race goes into decline, you keep all them in their new spots, and then now you draw a third new race. You only have 2 ever active at a time, one in decline and one that you're playing as. So you gotta kind of balance when it makes sense for you to do that versus when it makes sense for you to keep trying to push. Alright, so I'm going to do a quick run over on the rules. I'm not going to spend super in-depth on it. But the first turn of the game, everyone picks a race and special power combo. So select a combo trait, pay 1 victory point for each combo above yours. So this is a neat mechanic. And I do want to actually just kind of show this off a little bit for when you're playing the game. For starting off, how you do this is, so for example, if these are, you do a little bit of a draft. So I have Berserker Orcs, Mounted Sorcerers, Merchant Skeletons, and Flying Giants. Yes, some crazy combinations. And then what you do is you decide what, which one you want. So if you want, let's say, for example, I want the Merchant Skeletons, and it's my turn, I'm going first. I put a gold coin, or these are copper, I guess. I put a coin on each of the other races above it. I take this slides up everything. If there's other ones below it, they slide up as well. Now that means now the next player decides they want the Sorcerer, they'll have to put a coin on the Orc, and then they'll get the Sorcerer, but they also get that coin. So the farther down you take in the list, everyone above could potentially get extra money to help start off, to do extra things, victory points and stuff, basically. And the idea is, is so that way whoever gets to go first gets the option of everything, and then as the game goes later and later, whoever's getting kind of with the leftovers, at least gets some sort of victory point or advantage that way. And that'll happen anytime, so if you go into decline, you come back to redo these piles will still be sitting there. New races may have been added to the bottom from races players are no longer using. So you might have an option to get a race that somebody else had stopped using at one point. And it says take number of races equal to the sum of your race and banner. So, 4 and 5, so these guys get 9, these guys get 10, 5 and 5, these guys get 11, and these guys get 8. So, every time you play, it's going to be very different, because you're going to get different combinations, different amounts, some combinations might be more powerful than others, but that's why they're random. So then when you're going to do the bulk of your turn after that, so after the first turn, you pick your character, you're going to conquer regions. Your first turn is you're going to place your race tokens on there. So we get this handy-dandy little tray here, which has all our race tokens in it, and it has it separated by each different one. So if I took the skeletons, I would find the skeletons on here. Alright, so here's our skeletons. So I take my 8 skeletons, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, put the rest back in there for now, because again, depending on which traits you might get more. And I'd place these on one spot on the map, and now I am conquering that area. So I'm going to do is slide all of these out of the way, and we're going to grab the map and kind of take a look at that. So here's an example of one of the maps. Before I get any farther into conquesting, maps are going to be broke up with these white borders. If there's no white border, it is like if there's no other space here, it's considered to be the edge of the board, even if it's a water space. And then each different area has different regions. Some have different symbols in them, which react to certain races. Some have these lost tribe tokens, which will have villagers already in them at the start of the game. So up in the top corner, it'll show this. This is a 2-player board. If we flip it to the other side, we have a 3-player board, which just gets rid of some more of them coastal areas, adds some more spaces in there. And then there is also a much bigger full loadable board for this one's for the 5 players. So it's gonna have a lot more stuff, but you're only playing 8 turns on this one, so you're gonna play the less turns because you have more people. And if we flip it to the other way, you play with 9 turns, and this one's for 4 people. So you can play up to 2 to 4 players with this game. Definitely neat. You get some extra different options. You're not always stuck on the same map either. But yeah, so if I want to take my skeletons, the first time of the game, I am going to take them. I'm going to pick a spot on the edge of the board. So let's say I'm going to pick these hills down there. I drop all my characters. Then what you want to do is you want to do conquest. And you're going to do this pretty much every turn. All conquests, region must usually be adjacent to one of yours. You need to spend 2 race tokens at minimum, plus 1 for each other race token, Lost Tribe token, encampment, fortress. So basically if there's any other tokens on the board. So what this means is, if this spot had 2 of these elves, for me to take over one of these adjacent areas, I could just spend 2 characters, move them. I control that area now. And again, you could kind of spread your guys out that way. You could move more than 2. I could keep one of my guys here. I could move everybody else here, because then that way my next turn I could keep doing this. Not my next turn, but the same turn. I could keep spreading guys out. If I want to take over this area, I'd have to spend 2 to do it, and then 1 for each other one, so that's 4. So I have to spend 4, and that eliminates that player's tokens. That gets me a bonus there. And now I take over that. But then you have to make sure you have enough for the surrounding area. You get cramped in with other characters starting to take over, you're not going to be able to do it. So now if this next area they had over here had 5, there's no way I could take it over. I don't have enough tokens. But I also have to be concerned that they have enough to take over me that direction as well. Alright, so if an opponent is representing a legion, he loses 1 token and withdraws all others back to the hand. So, in this previous example, when they had 2 elves in there, so what happens then is they lose 1, it goes back to the box, so they don't have access to it anymore. And then the other one goes back to their hand, which then at the end of my turn, they can redeploy that back onto the table. So somewhere else. So like if they had some areas staggered like this, end of the turn, they would get to take this one, they could put it back on there to help fortify that one for the next turn. But then as you can see, as you slowly start taking over other players' encampments, they're going to start losing their troops, and eventually they're just not going to have enough to sustain blocking areas, or they're going to keep running out. Because if they only have 1, and you come over here and take it over, they just lose that token. And then eventually you can walk through and take out 1, 1, 1. So eventually you're going to get to the point where if you haven't won decline selecting race, you're going to eventually have to, just because you're probably going to run out of tokens. Then we also have a final conquest. During your final conquest attempt, so after you're done moving all your tokens, because you can do this multiple times, as long as you have at least 2 per each time. So again, I did 2 there. I can move another 2 down here. I can move 2 here. Now I no longer have enough 2 to move anywhere else. Now it does leave me really easy for them to come take me over, potentially, depending on who's around me. But that's something you can do. To do a final conquest, you always have to have at least 1 token. So regardless of your race, special power, or die roll, you must always use at least 1 token when conquering a region. Then what you do is you roll a die. You have to decide where you're trying to take, and it has to be an area that could be taken over with at least 4 or higher. I can't get this dice out. So we have a special die here that has a 1 pip, a 2 pip, a 3 pip, and then 3 blank sides. So what this means is I could take this guy, I could try and take over this 2 spot or this 1 spot. Because I can roll a die. So if I want to take over this one spot, I would say I'm taking over that. I would roll my die. I have a 1, so now it counts as me having 2. So I could take them over. Now, if I went this direction, I would have lost. Because I wouldn't have had enough to take over. I would have had to roll a 2 or higher. I rolled a blank, I would have lost again. So that's kind of a neat way that lets you kind of potentially just keep forging. Now, why would I want to do that? Because if I did this and I moved, let's say I took over that one, at the end of my turn, I can move this guy here, and that gives me 1 extra spot. So it's definitely a way to like try and just expand your way out. Or if you moved all your characters, you could kind of block out an area. The last thing you do on your turn is troop redeployment. End of your turn, fully redeploy your troops for defense, leaving at least 1 in each area. Opponents may redeploy troops from regions conquered. Opponents may redeploy troops withdrawing from regions, so they get to replay their guy at the end of the turn. So they can only play that one that I took over at the end of my turn, so they can't add it to another thing I might be able to take over. But actually then now redeploys. Now right here I only have 1 other stack, so I can move him here or move him here, and that's about it. And then you score victory points. Receive 1 victory coin for each region, active or in decline. Raise tokens, occupy, collect victory points, special powers, and keep your victory points a secret. So right now I earn 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coins. So I take my coins. So I could take a 5 and a 6. Or 5 and a 6. A 5 and a 1 token. So we have like a 3 coin. I could take 2 3s, or I could take 1. And you keep them kind of stacked up in a thing because they're all shaped the same. I don't know if this is a stack of 1s, 3s, 5, 10s. So that way your opponents they can look over and see you have a stack of coins, but they can't sit there and be like, oh, okay, I know that he has 5 points, he has 10 points. I have to worry about the 10-point guy. I'm not worried about the guy with 5 points. Ideally, I think it'd be better if you had somebody like hide these, like you had like a little shield or a card thing to hide these behind. Versus that way you don't have to keep trying to play in the bank and readjust your amounts because you don't want to like try and be bluffing people that way. But that's just my thought. Alright, then after your first turn, you're going to basically, this is what you're going to do. You're regular troops. With 1 race token in each region, take the others back to your hand. If you wish, you may abandon some or all regions during this phase, but you'll lose victory points associated with them. So at the beginning of my turn, it's now back around to my next turn. Basically, I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this extra guy here. I can put him wherever I want. So at the end of my turn, I got to kind of redeploy him somewhere else that may be defensive. But now, like, if 2 other players went, I have the option of, okay, now it's weaker on this side than it was on that side. You could also decide, these guys, you know, there's a bunch of elves over here. I could be like, you know what, it's not worth me risking all these guys. I could opt to pick up all 4 of these guys here and then redeploy them all over here and try and conquer that direction. But that means I won't get any points for these at the end of the turn. I basically lost my points. But it is a possible solution to do. Then you're going to do conquer, which is the same thing we did over here. So basically the first turn, pick your characters. You get 1 free conquest when you put your characters on the board. Then you're going to conquest stuff. End of your turn, redeploy your guys. Beginning of your turn, after other players have went, you get to redeploy again, and then do more conquering. Or you have the option of going to decline. If you do not want to conquer anything, you can flip your race upside down, which I showed you before. Flip 1 race token in each region to its decline side. So if I had my guys spread out like this and I went into decline, I'd flip them all over, and they have a grayscale side. So that way you know that they're in decline and you're not actively using them. You can't pick them up to redeploy them. You can't pretty much do anything. They just sit there. And then if you already have a race in decline, now you have to take all the previous ones off before you do all your new ones. And then play your next turn as your first turn. So I draw a new race and I get to drop them wherever I wanted. That's pretty much how the game works. You're just trying to vie for control depending on using your abilities or skills on your cards or your tokens to figure out the best way to take over the board. that's about it. I'm going to pause for a sec while I rearrange this. Alright, so we're going to look at the different races, and then look at the special abilities, and some of the tokens that come with them. Now, every race has a couple of different traits on there. So they're going to have the number down here, of course, is how many you get, which should combine with the other one. They're going to have a little symbol on their down there as well. So that's going to match their token. So like the skeletons will have the skeleton symbol. This is just a quick visual representation so you can easily tell which one's which. You will get a number of tokens. For example, the skeleton's going to get a giant pile. Because part of this has to do with their ability, their number here, and the possible number, the highest number they can get elsewhere. Versus some other races are going to have a lot fewer, such as the trolls here only have a couple. So they're going to get different amounts. Not every race has necessarily the same amount to begin with, so we can kind of see the zoom back out there and kind of see the token tray. So they have different amounts for each one. There are also lost race ones, which actually start on the board on the little target spots. They're just ones that kind of hinder you trying to start off the game. So then not every space is always free to begin with. So then also on the character, or on the race card here, they're going to show, or token tile, whatever you want to call it, I guess. They're going to show kind of what they do. Now, after you've played the game enough, or you've read through these enough, you're going to probably just be able to look at these and be able to tell. The first couple of times, you're probably going to have to go with the guide. They do give these big giant sheets for, I think there's like 6 of them. So there's enough for everybody. So I kind of read what they do, and then we'll just kind of go through each character quick. So we have skeletons. During troop redeployment, take 1 new skeleton token from the tray for every 2 non-empty regions you control and deploy it. Take 1 new skeleton token from the tray for every 2 non-empty regions you control. Okay, so non-empty. What does non-empty mean? One sec. So the rulebook does also have a little bit, sometimes a little bit brief more explanation. My problem is I was misreading this. It says, for every non-empty region you conquered. So every time I take over a new area, for every 2 areas I took over that turn, I get 1 extra troop. So the skeletons basically can keep multiplying by taking out more and more guys. But if you just move to empty areas that don't have anybody, they don't redeploy. The idea, I guess, being skeletons, they defeat someone, they get an ability. So you flip them over, nothing special there. They just have the decline symbol there, which is the pillar. I don't believe it has any other meaning anywhere else. I don't believe so. Yeah, that just shows it's in decline. Has a little pillar icon. Alright, up next we have giants. So we're going to get 6 giants that have a little mountaintops. Giants will say, conquer any region adjacent to a mountain region you occupy for 1 less giant token than usual. So showing if you're on a mountain token, you can conquer 1 adjacent area for 1 less, which is kind of nice. So anywhere on the board there's a picture of a mountain, you will place all these different mountain tokens. This just helps you easily define that you're on a mountain. And that they also hinder what you're trying to do. Alright. I don't think any of these guys have... Nope. Some guys have special effects on the back. That's why I'm just double checking, because I don't always remember off the top of my head. Alright, then we have sorcerers. Now you can see some of these are races, and some of them are kind of like classes, not necessarily races. Like, sorcerers aren't really a race. So they kind of play a little fast and loose with that term. But it says once per turn, once per turn per opponent, substitute an opponent's single active token with a new sorcerer token taken from the trade to conquer an adjacent region. Subject to a single active token with a sorcerer token taken from the trade to conquer an adjacent region. Interesting. So basically you can just take over somebody else's spot. Let's see if the rulebook has any expanded. Yeah, it's a little bit more expanded in there. So the rulebook specifies a little bit more. The token your sorcerer places must still be maybe the only race token in its region. A single troll token with its troll layer is considered to be alone for this purpose. These markers provide no protection of lone race. So basically they can take over one, if there's a single race, they can take over one he can just move over and take over a single spot from the trait. So it's kind of a very powerful ability. Alright, and then there's his backside. We have some orcs. Orcs get us 5. They have a little sword. Orcs will do... Where am I at? Collect a bonus coin for each non-empty region you conquered this turn. So the skeletons got extra troops. These guys, if they take over someone with another player token, they gain extra victory points. So they basically get points for conquering areas. Definitely very ogreish. And you see some of these are darker than others. I'm not really sure why they did that. We have the halflings, who are going to say your first conquer may be anywhere. Also place so they don't have to start on the edge of the maps. Also place a hole in the ground in the first 2 regions you conquer to make these immune to opponents' conquest and racial special powers. So they're going to get 2 of these extra little hole in the ground tokens that you place wherever you start. Again, they can start anywhere on the map. And then they can't be affected by extra power. So Sorcerer can't come by and use his ability just to take over. So that's actually definitely cool. Definitely interesting. They're all very unique. They get the little foot icon. We have some dwarves here who have the pickaxe. You get 3 of those. Collect 1 bonus coin for each mine you occupy at turn's end, even when in decline. So anywhere there's a picture of the little pickaxe and shovel, the mines on the board, as long as you have one of your dwarves there, you get an extra coin. So basically trying to get to those as quickly as possible. And then it does show that even that shows it happens even while you're in decline. So it shows on the back. I get that because I'm still in decline. So that's kind of a neat idea. We have trolls. Place a troll's lair token in each region you occupy to increase its defense by 1. Trolls lair stay there when trolls go into decline. So we're going to get a bunch of these tokens. There's a ton of these. They're little troll layers, little kind of like caves. They're double-sided, so it doesn't matter which side you play down. But it does it increases your defense by 1. So if normally you have to spend a minimum of 2 races tokens to move into a conquering area, you have to spend 1 additional if there's a layer there as well. So it just provides them extra defense, and again, they get to keep them even when in decline. They get like a poison type marker. I'm not really sure what that symbol's supposed to be. We get some humans here who are, peasant farmers. They have the little wheat leaf. Collect 1 bonus for each farmland region you occupy at turn's end. So like the dwarves, they get extra for controlling farmlands. But so this is the difference. Is some of these on the board. So if I zoom back out, you'll have some things. You'll have the symbols, magic, caves. This one's a cave and a mine, or they're going to be the region types. You have like farmlands, which are like grassy. You have yellow. You have grasslands, forests, swamp areas. So they have different pictures on there. But it matches the picture on his token. And then he doesn't keep that when that happens. We have ghouls, who get the bat symbol. Kind of weird, so that probably not Dracula's in here. The ghouls all stay on the map when you go into decline. In addition, they may continue to conquer new regions during the following turns. So it's neat there. So you can decline these guys at any time, and they can keep going. So basically, you get the ghouls. A very powerful move with them is just to decline very quickly, so that way you can keep utilizing them to go around and conquer new areas anyhow, but then you can start using your second new race. The only thing to keep in mind is if you decline, you lose whatever special ability to have. So depending on how, like, you might not want to do it on turn 1 or turn 2, because you also then lose a full turn of not gaining any points if you haven't spread your army out. But basically, yeah, spread these guys out, get them kind of, 2, 3, 4 zones, decline them, jump in, start a new race right away. Don't worry about spreading them out super thing or defeating a bunch of other people. They can keep playing. But yeah, your special ability might change how you want to do that. Alright, then we have the Tritons, or kind of like mer people, that will fish bones. So the Tritons are going to have conquer all coastal regions bordering a sea or lake at least one Triton token than usual, and a minimum of 1 is still required. So kind of like the giants can do mountains, these guys can do coastal areas a lot cheaper. So it kind of depends on what race you get. It's going to depend on sort of how you're going to play, how you're going to go on the map. We have wizards to go against our sorcerers. They have little magical spells there. And they have collect 1 bonus for each magical source occupied at turn's end. So they'll be like dwarves. They'll have the little symbol if they're on there. Very simple. So again, it's like lots of, once you realize what the symbols mean and all that, these tokens are very easy to read. We have the Amazons, who I kept calling elves. These are actually the Amazons. They have a little heart with the arrow through it. It says, Amazons, during your conquest, you may use 4 additional Amazons. Only when attacking. So how this basically says is, 4 of your Amazon tokens may only be used for conquest, not for defense, as indicated by the +4 on the banner. So you start your initial turn with 10 Amazon tokens, plus any additional ones granted you by the special powers. At the end of each trooper deployment, you remove 4 tokens from the map. Make sure to leave them at least 1 in each area region. And only take these 4 tokens back into your hand and redeploy them at the start of your next turn. So during your turn, you get 4 extra characters to use. And at the end of your turn, when you can redeploy, you have to pick those 4 back up, solidify your defenses, whatever. But then at the beginning of every attacking turn, you gain 4 extra ones. So it's kind of interesting there. Alright, then we do have the elves, who have little flowers there. Elves have, when conquered, you suffer no loss. Withdraw all your tokens from the region. So they basically escape if you lose. So you don't have to discard 1, you just put them all back in your hand. So basically spreading these guys as thin as possible isn't really a bad thing, because if worst case is you get taken over, they go back to your hand. Yeah, so that's pretty fun. Except it doesn't happen when they're in decline. Alright. Then our last one is we have the Ratmen. The Ratmen say no race benefit other than sheer numbers. So they don't gain any extra bonuses, but you get 8 of them. So they just have a lot more to use, and they can conquer over everything. So that's pretty cool there. Alright, and then the last one we did have, I know I said the last one, they did give you a blank one, so if you want to make up your own, and it's just decline on the other side. It's kind of fun. Alright, then let's look at our special powers. Now, there are more special powers than there are races. So, you will, as you play through, you could end up with the same races repeatedly, but you might end up with a brand new set of powers over and over and over. So let's start off. We have Merchant. And so you're going to get two extra for this. The Merchant is, if I can find that, 1 bonus for any region you occupy at the end of the turn. So basically you get extra coins for occupying regions. So they're, definitely not a bad thing. Now, the back sides of these are just going to be this little symbol, so I'm not going to flip them all over, because if you go into decline, these are just discarded. We have flying. You may conquer any region on the map, not just adjacent ones. This lets you move around a lot quicker without having to go from one to the next. You can fly over occupied areas. We have mounted. Whoops. The mounted are conquer any hill or farmland regions at one less token, and minimum one is still required. So now this is really great for if you're playing like the peasants or the humans, because they're already getting bonuses for being on them, and now you can conquer them quicker. So again, you can see how some of these might benefit a little bit better. Flying ratmen, who have a lot of extra numbers to move around, definitely could be very powerful. We have Berserker. You may use the reinforcement dice for each conquest. So every time you do a conquest, you can roll this dice and add that many extras. So you can potentially try and take out more areas than what you should be allowed to. It says if you not have enough tokens left, and this is your final conquest, you still have to have 1 token. So you could take 3 and then roll and say, okay, I'm trying to go after 3. For any area, you can roll as long as you can roll. Potentially, you could take over an area that has 6. But if you roll less, then you don't get to take it over. So pretty simple that way. We have Hill. So you can make some Hill Giants. +1 bonus coin for each Hill region occupied at the end of your turn. Very simple. Pillaging. Collect 1 bonus coin for each non-empty region you conquer this turn. So if you conquer a non-empty one, you gain an extra coin. Now this, again, can work very well with like orcs, who already gained that bonus as well. So now you're gaining 2 every time you do it. So definitely fun there. We have Diplomatic. At the end of each turn, select one opponent whose active race you did not attack this turn. He won't be able to attack you next turn. Yeah, so I can make for some interesting combos. We have Biovaking. I'm probably butchering that word. Biovaking. Deploy 5 encampments in your regions. Each encampment increases that region's defense by 1. So where like the trolls could place their troll caves, you can place the special encampments down. Which then lets you boost your defense. So that's pretty cool. Nice and helpful, depending on who you are. We have Alchemist. Collect 2 bonus coins. Every turn your tokens are on the map. So as long as you still have this race out, you gain 2 extra tokens every turn. Just as simple as that. Not 1 for every region or any of that, just 2 additional coins. Help benefit you very, very well. We have Swamps. Collect 1 bonus for each swamp region you occupy at the end of the turn. Very simple. We have Heroic. Heroic gives you, at the end of your turn, place 2 heroes in regions you occupy to make these immune to opponents' conquest, ratios, and special powers. So you're going to get 2 extra little tokens there, which will let you, basically just protect your areas. More powerful characters the other races don't want to mess with. You can keep moving them around each turn. We have the Forest, which gives you +1 coin for each region you occupy, a forest region. We have Scout. You may go into decline at the end of a regular turn of conquest after scoring. So this is kind of a fun one too, because normally if you go into decline, that's your entire turn. This lets you move around, do all your scoring, get all your points, and then you can decline your race at the beginning of your next turn. You can immediately start with a new race rather than having to spend an entire turn doing it. We have Commando. Conquer any region using one less token than usual. So this just lets anyone be a little bit more aggressive. We have Seafaring. When your race is active, you may conquer sea and lakes as if they were empty regions. You retain these regions even after going into decline. So normally you can't go on the water or lake regions. This lets you break that rule. So that's very helpful. You know, lets you gain some areas other players can't get a hold of. We have Spirit. When sent in decline, your Spirit tokens do not count towards the only one race in decline limit. So this one does flip over and shows that it sticks with your characters. So basically what this means, if I remember right, says, I never count other limits regardless. You may thus end up with two different races in decline in your map at the same time. You scored both of them. If the third race goes into decline, your spirits remain on the board, although the other race already in decline disappears as normal. In other words, decline spirits never leave the map except when taking losses from opponents' conquests. Through races, sent in decline may go away when a new race goes into decline. So if you have a spirit, whatever, it doesn't give you any bonuses during the regular thing, but you can put your race in decline and they will stay on the board. Spirit ghouls is almost overpowering because they don't leave the board, and they can keep conquering when they go into decline. So in that sense, you could go into decline first turn with spirit ghouls, and then just keep playing them as normal, you know. So you saw some can be a little bit more broken than other. Alright, we have Fortified. Once per turn, place a fortress in a region, increases defense by 1, and collect 1 coin, only when active. The fortress stays on the map even if your race goes into decline. So we get some fortresses that you can place down, and they will stay out. So it'll show on the back there, that way you can flip them over and you can they'll stay out even after you're in decline. Yes, that's a little bit different than like the encampment, but you get a lot more encampments is kind of the thing. We have Wealthy. Collect 7 bonus coins only once and at the end of your first turn on the map. Beginning of the turn, you start with 7 extra experience, and that just sits around and does nothing. We have Dragon Master. Use your dragon to conquer regions using a single token. The dragon occupied by it becomes immune to opponent's special powers and effects. So you get a special dragon, kind of like the hero characters, except he gets to move around and conquer more areas. But it's kind of that 1 versus 2 type of idea. We have Underworld. Conquer any tavern region in less than 1 token than usual. A minimum is still required. All regions with taverns are considered adjacent. So not only do you get to take out taverns easier, you also can move between them freely. So that's kind of fun. And then, of course, we get a blank tile in case you want to use that. So the only other things I did not show off for components is we have our round tile there. And then we have a pile of money. I'm going to zoom my camera back out a bit. So I'm not going to take all of these out, but we have a bunch of different monies. We have some 10s, some 1s, some 3s, and some 5s. And then they'll just, you also have a bunch of different amounts for each one. Alright, so that was our game. That is Small World. Zoom back out here. Read my camera. So that's Small World. So yeah, basically it's a conquering game. Obviously, like I said, sometimes some races and special powers combined together are going to be better than other ones. There's a bit of luck, a bit of strategy, because depending on where you start and what you have, you might just have a little bit better advantage than somebody else. You have to determine when it's best to decline. I don't know if there's ever like a solid answer. If it's, I mean, ideally you'd say spread it out and you only have one of each token on the board, because when you go into decline, you have the most out there. And then opponents, because when you decline, you're stuck with 1 token anyhow. But then the other idea might be sometimes it might not be worth sitting there struggling trying to take over this, take over one, take over one, take over one, and just be like, I have 5 areas in this bottom corner that I've taken over. Nobody's near me right now. I'm going to go into decline, and I'm going to start my new race on the other side of the board and kind of pincer and kind of attack someone else from behind with a full bunch, because maybe they left, one spot open. What I mean could be like, if they, for some reason, your opponents, took over these 3 areas, and they left this open, for whatever reason, they figure, we have this blocked off, no one can get into it, you could go into your decline, you could come back and do your first conquest, start here, and then slowly start taking them from behind. So there's some different strategies there you kind of gotta watch. I feel like the game is, it's nice that it has an end amount. It has X number of rounds, and there's not really player elimination. If you get, all your characters get eliminated, you just draw a new race. It's pretty simple there. Now, that being said, though, however, although there is no player elimination, if one player starts getting way too far advanced, that they just all of a sudden, turn 5, they have, let's say 20 coins, and everyone else has been, you're down to, you've only gotten, 3 or 4. You're just not doing very well, or you keep making bad moves or whatever. You could see how it could get very frustrating. I think part of that could be slightly negated a little bit if you have the coins hidden versus giant stacks, because if someone has a giant stack and you have a little tiny stack, definitely that means you don't know. Yeah, you can know how many are in there. You could have 2 10s, which equal 20 points, versus they could have, 21 coins. But then again, you're playing around in the bank a little bit too much. I think the only way to get that is let each player pull their own tokens from the bank. So you can kind of pick them out however you want, so you can kind of hide them. But yeah, if you got too far behind, that would kind of be a bummer, because you might lose. But there's not much you can do about that. But yeah, I think the game having a set limit, and the fact you can keep playing and all that, it's very quick. The randomness could definitely be fun, as well as the fact is not just being random, is that there will also be a different set every time you play. So you're not always stuck being, someone's not being like, oh, I'm going to be this and this every time. Since you have to kind of pick and choose and do this and that, and it's going to be mixing and matching. So like one player plays, again, say Spirit Ghouls, and they just dominate the game. Okay, hey, we're losing. Okay, next time you play, that might never be an option. And then even though the characters are always going to keep rotating through as you go through them, you could always pull some out, have less them out, so as they go into decline, if they go off your board, they go back to the bottom of the list. I think it might even say you only have 6 available. You only have 6 available at a time out of the total 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, so you only have 6 of the 14 even showing at any given time. So you're going to keep rotating through them as you go, if you keep going through enough. But the abilities will always change. So once these go away, then you draw a new one. So the first time someone has dwarves, they go into decline. Then later they do something else, they go into decline again. The dwarves go back to the bottom. If they are underworld dwarves the first time, the next time they might be seafaring dwarves. So it even changes how that particular race is going to work the second time it comes in a longer game. Alright, that's what we have for Small World. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know it's kind of a long, rambly video. But I kind of want to show off all the different token stuff. I will be going through some of the expansions. I have some of the smaller ones. If I can get the bigger ones, I will start going through them as well. But you guys see some different races and abilities and some other new mechanics to the games. So I'll try and I'll always have a playlist. I don't know if I'll link them all in the description or not. But see you guys later. Bye.